Have you ever had one of those moments where you wonder how to make learning really sink in for your students? Well, today we're going to break down a simple but incredibly powerful framework that does just that. It's called Talk, Read, Talk, Write, and it's a full-circle approach designed to supercharge reading comprehension no matter what subject you teach.
It's the million-dollar question, isn't it? We can get students to read the words, sure, but how do we get them to truly understand, to question, and to remember what they've read long after the test? How do we move them from just being passive readers to being active thinkers? That's exactly what we're tackling today.
And the answer is this beautifully simple four-step cycle. Talk, read, talk, write. You'll hear it called TRTW for short. Now, this isn't just another teaching strategy to add to the pile. Think of it as a complete learning loop, one that's designed from the ground up to build deep, meaningful understanding. So what's the big idea behind it? Honestly, it's all about making a fundamental shift. We're talking about moving students away from being passive buckets waiting for information and turning them into active creators of their own knowledge. Every single step in this cycle is about getting them to think, to do, and to build meaning for themselves. Let's dive into how it works.
Okay, so it all kicks off with talking. That's right, before a single word of the text is even read, the learning starts with a conversation. This first talk phase is absolutely critical because it's all about warming up the brain and getting it ready for the heavy lifting it's about to do. But let's be clear, this isn't just some random chit-chat. It's a strategic, focused conversation that has two really important jobs to do, both of which are designed to set your students up for success before they even lay eyes on the text. First, its job is to activate knowledge. This is where you get students digging into what they already know about a topic, maybe previewing some tricky vocabulary, or even just making some guesses about what the text might be about. And second, it's the perfect moment for tool integration. This is your chance to pre-teach a key idea or a thinking strategy that they're going to need to really unlock the text. So once their brains are primed and revved up, it's time to actually read. But this is not your typical silent, heads-down reading. You should think of this phase more like an active hunt, a search for clues, for evidence, for big ideas, and even for those moments that make them go, I don't get that.
The absolute key here is that students need to physically interact with what they're reading. By the time they finish, the page shouldn't be pristine. It should look like a workspace, covered in their thoughts, questions, and discoveries. This is where they're gathering all the raw materials for the next steps.
So how do they do that? Well, it can take a couple of key forms. You've got annotation, which is just a fancy word for things like highlighting the main points or circling words they don't know. And then there's jotting, scribbling quick summaries or questions right there in the margins. These are the tools they use on their evidence hunt.
All right, the hunt is over. They've collected all their evidence. Now it's time to make sense of it all. And that brings us to the final two phases, the second talk and the write. This is where students process what they found and really cement that new understanding into their brains.
This second talk is where the magic of teamwork really happens. Students get together and they process the text out loud. They share what they highlighted, they debate their questions, and they use the evidence they found to build a much deeper shared understanding than any of them could have reached on their own.
And finally, we land on the write phase. You can think of this as the capstone of the whole cycle. This is where a student takes everything, what they knew before, their notes from the text, the ideas from their group discussion, and synthesizes it all into their own writing. This is the moment that makes the learning permanent. Okay, so that's the whole TRTW cycle. And I know what you might be thinking. This sounds great, but how do I actually do it? Well, the best part is you can get started with a really simple, totally manageable 4-day plan. No need to overhaul everything overnight.
Look how simple this is. Day 1, just pick a text and think about how you'll show your students how it works. Day 2, you plan it out. Day 3, you actually do it for them. You model the whole cycle. And by day 4, it's their turn. They try it themselves. After that, you just see how it went, make some tweaks, and go again. It's that straightforward.
And that quote really gets to the heart of this whole thing. You don't have to change everything all at once. It's all about taking these small, deliberate steps that end up having a massive impact on how well your students understand and how confident they feel.
So here's my challenge to you. What's your next step? Keep it simple, don't overthink it. Just find one text. It could be an article, a short story, anything. And just try running one full TRTW cycle. Just see what happens.
Because when you give your students the tools to talk about ideas, to read with purpose, to discuss and build meaning together, and then to write to solidify it all, you're doing so much more than just teaching content. You're building thinkers.
So the only real question left is, what kind of big impact are you going to create?